Hello, and welcome to some Songs for the Struggling Artist bonus content. So a couple of years ago, I wrote this, I don't know what to call it, a short story, a short novella, a small work called The Liberated Boat Right Society. And I figured out a way to sell it on Patreon, which I'm going to do before too long. I'm still working on it, and I have asked my good friend and fellow artist Shannon Harvey to do some images for this work. And Shannon, doing some research on secret societies, discovered one from the beginning of the 20th century called heterodoxy. So we both got obsessed with heterodoxy immediately. We've both ordered the book about them. We're going to read it very shortly. But the woman who founded heterodoxy, a woman named Marie Jenney Howe, wrote a bunch of plays and a monologue. And some of those things are available online. I found this monologue that she wrote called Anti-Suffrage Monologue. And apparently she performed it, or someone performed it for the suffrage conference, and it was a big hit. They all went crazy for it. So I read it, and it's a delight, and I wanted to share it with you. And honestly, I just wanted a chance to read it because it seemed like it was going to play well. It feels like it would play well. So I just wanted to try it out and see how it was. So I did. I recorded it here for you today. And what is just sort of extraordinary about it is like how contemporary it feels. Like the arguments are against suffrage, but you'll hear how disturbingly fresh this monologue is, even though it was from before women got the right to vote. So I give you now this speech from the beginning of the 20th century. Anti-Suffrage Monologue by Marie Jenney Howe. Please do not think of me as old-fashioned. I pride myself on being a modern, up-to-date woman. I believe in all kinds of broad-mindedness. Only I do not believe in woman suffrage because to do that would be to deny my sex. Woman suffrage is the reform against nature. Look at these ladies sitting on the platform. Observe their physical inability, their mental disability, their spiritual instability, and general debility. Could they walk up to the ballot box, mark a ballot, and drop it in? Obviously not. Let us grant, for the sake of argument, that they could mark a ballot. But could they drop it in? No. All nature is against it. The laws of man cry out against it. The voice of God cries out against it, and so do I. Enfranchisement is what makes man, man. Disenfranchisement is what makes woman, woman. If women were enfranchised, every man would be just like every woman, and every woman would be just like every man. There would be no difference between them. And don't you think this would rob life of just a little bit of its poetry and romance? Man must remain man. Woman must remain woman. If man goes over and tries to be like woman, if woman goes over and tries to be like man, it will become so very confusing and so difficult to explain to our children. Let us take a practical example. If a woman puts on a man's coat and trousers, takes a man's cane and hat and cigar, and goes out on the streets, what will happen to her? She will be arrested and thrown into jail. Then why not stay at home? I know you begin to see how strongly I feel on this subject, but I have some reasons as well. These reasons are based on logic. Of course, I am not logical. I am a creature of impulse, instinct, and intuition, and I glory in it. But I know that these reasons are based on logic because I have culled them from the men, whom it is my privilege to know. My first argument against suffrage is that women would not use it if they had it. You couldn't drive them to the polls. My second argument is, if the women were enfranchised, they would neglect their homes, desert their families, and spend all their time at the polls. You may tell me that the polls are only open once a year, but I know women. They are creatures of habit. If you let them go to the polls once a year, they will hang around the polls all the rest of the time. I have arranged these arguments in couplets. They go together in such a way that if you don't like one, you can take the other. This is my second anti-suffrage couplet. If the women were enfranchised, they would vote exactly as their husbands do and only double the existing vote. Do you like that argument? If not, take this one. If the women were enfranchised, they would vote against their own husbands, thus creating dissension, family quarrels, and divorce. My third anti-suffrage couplet is, women are angels. Many men call me an angel, and I have a strong instinct which tells me it is true. That is why I am anti, because I want to be an angel, and with the angels stand. And if you don't like that argument, take this one. Women are depraved. They would introduce into politics a vicious element which would ruin our national life. Fourth anti-suffrage couplet. Women cannot understand politics. Therefore, there would be no use in giving women political power because they would not know what to do with it. On the other hand, if the women were enfranchised, they would mount rapidly into power, take all the offices from all the men, and soon we would have women governors of all our states and dozens of women acting as president of the United States. Fifth anti-suffrage couplet. Women cannot band together. They are incapable of organization. No two women can even be friends. Women are cats. On the other hand, if women were enfranchised, we would have all the women banded together on one side and all the men banded together on the other side, and there would follow a sex war, which might end in bloody revolution. Just one more of my little couplets. The ballot is greatly overestimated. It has never done anything for anybody. Lots of men tell me this. And the corresponding argument is the ballot is what makes man, man. It is what gives him all his dignity and all of his superiority to women. Therefore, if we allow women to share this privilege, how could a woman look up to her own husband? Why, there would be nothing to look up to. I have talked to many woman suffragists, and I find them unreasonable. I say to them, here I am, convince me. I ask for proof. Then they proceed to tell me of Australia and Colorado and other places where women have passed excellent laws to improve the condition of working women and children. But I say, what of it? These are facts. I don't care about facts. I ask for proof. Then they quote the 8 million women of the United States who are now supporting themselves and the 25,000 married women in the city of New York who are self-supporting. But I say again, what of it? These are statistics. I don't believe in statistics. Facts and statistics are things which no truly womanly woman would ever use. I wish to prove anti-suffrage in a womanly way. That is by personal example. This is my method of persuasion. Once, I saw a woman driving a horse, and the horse ran away with her. Isn't that just like a woman? Once I read in the newspapers about a woman whose house caught on fire, and she threw the children out the window and carried the pillows downstairs. Does that show political acumen or does it not? Besides, look at the hats that women wear. And have you ever known a successful woman governor of a state? Or have you ever known a really, truly successful woman president of the United States? Well, if they could, they would, wouldn't they? Then if they haven't, doesn't that show they couldn't? As for the militant suffragettes, they are all hyenas in petticoats. Now, do you want to be a hyena and wear petticoats? Now, I think I have proved anti-suffrage, and I have done it in a womanly way. That is, without stooping to the use of a single fact or argument or a single statistic. I am the prophet of a new idea. No one has ever thought of it or heard of it before. I well remember when this great idea first came to me. It waked me in the middle of the night with a shock that gave me a headache. This is it. Woman's place is in the home. Is it not beautiful as it is new? New as it is true? Take this idea away with you. You will find it very helpful in your daily lives. You may not grasp it just at first, but you will gradually grow into an understanding of it. I know the suffragists reply that all our activities have been taken out of the home. The baking, the washing, the weaving, the spinning are all long since taken out of the home. But I say, all the more reason that something should stay in the home. Let it be woman. Besides, think of the great modern invention, the telephone. That has been put into the home. Let woman stay at home and answer the telephone. We aunties have so much imagination. Sometimes it seems to us that we can hear the little babies in the slums crying to us. We can see the children in factories and mines reaching out their little hands to us, and the working women in the sweated industries, the underpaid, underfed women reaching out their arms to us, all crying as with one voice, "Save us! Save us from woman's suffrage!" Well, may they make this appeal to us, for who knows what woman's suffrage might not do for such as these. It might even alter the conditions under which they live. We aunties do not believe that any conditions should be altered. We want everything to remain just as it is. All is for the best. Whatever is right. If misery is in the world, God has put it there. Let it remain. If this misery presses harder on some women than others, it is because they need discipline. Now, I have always been comfortable and well cared for, but then I never needed discipline. Of course, I am only a weak, ignorant woman. But there is one thing I do understand from the ground up, and that is the divine intention toward woman. I know that the divine intention toward woman is, let her remain at home. The great trouble with the suffragists is this. They interfere too much. They are always interfering. Let me take a practical example. There is, in the city of New York, a nurses' settlement where 60 trained nurses go forth to care for sick babies and give them pure milk. Last summer, only 2 or 3 babies died in this slum district around the nurses' settlement, whereas formerly hundreds of babies have died there every summer. Now what are these women doing? Interfering with the death rate. And what is their motive in so doing? They seek notoriety. They want to be noticed. They are trying to show off. And if 60 women who merely believe in suffrage behave in this way, what may we expect when all women are enfranchised? What ought these women to do with their lives? Each one ought to be devoting herself to the comfort of some man. You may say, they are not married. But I answer, let them try a little harder, and they might find some kind of man to devote themselves to. What does the Bible say on the subject? It says, seek, and ye shall find. Besides, when I look around me at the men, I feel that God never meant us women to be too particular. Let me speak one word to my sister women who came here today. Women, we don't need to vote in order to get our own way. Don't misunderstand me. Of course, I want you to get your own way. That's what we're here for. But do it indirectly. If you want a thing, tease. If that doesn't work, nag. If that doesn't do, cry. Crying always brings them around. Get what you want. Pound pillows. Make a scene. Make home a hell on earth, but do it in a womanly way. That is so much more dignified and refined than walking up to a ballot box and dropping in a piece of paper. Can't you see that? Let us consider for a moment the effect of woman's enfranchisement on man. I think someone ought to consider the men. What makes husbands faithful and loving? The ballot and the monopoly of that privilege. If women vote, what will become of men? They will all slink off, drunk and disorderly. We aunties understand men. If women were enfranchised, men would revert to their natural instincts, such as regicide, matricide, patricide, and race suicide. Do you believe in race suicide or do you not? Then isn't it our duty to refrain from a thing that would lure men to destruction? It comes down to this. Someone must wash the dishes. Now, would you expect man made in the image of God, to roll up his sleeves and wash the dishes? Why, it would be blasphemy. I know that I am but a rib, and so I wash the dishes. Or I hire another rib to do it for me, which amounts to the same thing. Let us consider the argument from the standpoint of religion. The Bible says, let the women keep silent in the churches. Paul says, let them keep their hats on for fear of the angels. My minister says, wives, obey your husbands. And my husband says that woman suffrage would rob the rose of its fragrance and the peach of its bloom. I think that is so sweet. Besides, did George Washington ever say, votes for women? No. Did the Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm ever say, votes for women? No. Did Elijah, Elisha, Micah, Hezekiah, Obadiah, and Jeremiah ever say, votes for women? No. Then that settles it. I don't want to be misunderstood in my reference to woman's inability to vote. Of course, she could get herself to the polls and lift a piece of paper. I don't doubt that. What I refer to is the pressure on the brain, the effect of this mental strain on woman's delicate nervous organization and on her highly wrought, sensitive nature. Have you ever pictured to yourself Election Day with women voting? Can you imagine how women, having undergone this terrible ordeal with their delicate systems all upset, will come out of the voting booths and be led away by policemen and put into ambulances while they are fainting and weeping, half laughing, half crying, and having fits upon the public highway? Don't you think that if a woman is going to have a fit, it is far better for her to have it in the privacy of her own home? And how shall I picture to you the terrors of the day after election? Divorce and death will rage unchecked. Crime and contagious disease will stalk unbridled through the land. Oh, friends, on this subject, I feel so strongly that I can